Have you made New Year's resolutions or started new hobbies only to drop them after a few months? Well, me too. But I think I might have come up with a method going forward to help me stick to those. And I think it might work for you too. You see, I used to read a lot when I was a kid. Harry Potter, Artemis Fowl, Percy Jackson, Lord of the Rings. I loved all kinds of stuff like that. I used to read all the time. I remember doing these challenges with a library where you'd try and read so many books within a certain time period. You used to get a card and you'd write down what books you wanted to read. You'd get little stickers and you'd stick them in when you'd finished that book. And you went for bronze, silver or gold rewards depending on how many books you could read. So yeah, I loved it. But as I grew up, I kind of grew out of reading. I would read a little bit here and there, but it definitely wouldn't be regularly. And I eventually decided that I wanted to get back into reading, not just for all the benefits, but also because I just remember how much fun I would have diving into new worlds, getting lost in stories. I was also hearing about all these other books that I hadn't tried before that I wanted to. Wheel of Time, Brandon Sanderson, Blake Crouch. So 2020 comes around and I make it my challenge. I'm going to read more this year. I push myself to read one book a month. Now, most books are about 300 to 400 pages. So, that's only really, at the most, 100 pages a week. That doesn't sound too bad, does it? 12 books a year sounds doable. It actually started quite well. In the first couple of months, I managed to read 4 books. One of them was fantasy, and then after that, I went back to reading the Horus Heresy series from Games Workshop. I'd read some of these in school, but I decided to take another crack at this series, and that first 3 books of that series, I really, really enjoyed those, so I just flew through them really quickly. But then I hit a bit of a wall. I continued with the same series, but I didn't enjoy book 4 as much, and so I read slower and slower and less and less and less. I did eventually finish it, and then I picked up something else. And this was the Kings of the Wild series, and I really loved that, so I blasted through that book and its sequel. But then the same thing kind of happened again. I picked up another new book and I lost interest, and that was kind of it, really. So with this sporadic reading schedule in 2020, do you think I managed to do 12 books? Not even close, really. I managed to read 8 books in that year, and I was pretty disappointed with that, if I'm honest. So 2021 came by and I picked the same New Year's resolution again. This year, surely I could do more than 8 books. I picked 10 as a bit of a compromise and I was determined that this would be the year. Again, it started off pretty well. A few read books in the first couple of months, but then things started to fall off like they did in 2020. I wasn't reading as much, I was putting it off, I would do something else, I'd play video games. I just wasn't very motivated to read. And I think you can probably see where this is starting to go towards for the end of the year in 2021. Not 10 books read, right? But something else actually happened that year at the same time, which had a bigger effect than I thought it would. It's so nice today that I thought I would take advantage and come out to the lake. Now, 2021 was also the year that we got a dog. We got a puppy. This is her, you can see her now. Look how adorable she was when we first brought her home. Now I know you're thinking, yes, she's adorable, but what does she have to do with reading or with sticking to your hobbies? Well, everybody knows you have to walk a dog, but if you never got a puppy, you might not know that you can't walk them for a very long time straight away. You have to build up to it slowly. So you start with 15 minutes, then each month you add on 5 minutes here and there, until eventually you get to the length of walk that your breed of dog needs. Now, pre-puppy, I didn't do very much exercise, so I wasn't too sure on the idea of getting up to, 45-minute walks twice a day, an hour and a half total, sometimes even 2 hours. I wasn't really sure how I was going to do it, but as the months went by, we added on 5 minutes each time, 15 minutes, 20, 30, 35, and it wasn't too bad, As we added on each month, just that 5 minutes extra didn't make a huge difference, and something clicked in my head. You see, I realised that I'd managed to achieve the big goal of walking for longer, even though I'd been uncertain if I would be able to, but by doing it slowly and steadily and consistently, I'd actually achieved something I wasn't sure I was going to be able to do. So around August, September time last year, I set up the same mini structure that I'd used with walking, and I applied that to reading instead. I told myself that I would read 3 chapters a week, and essentially whenever I completed a week and I read 3 chapters, I would gain 1 score, if you will, one point. And if there was ever a week where I didn't read 3 chapters, then that score would be wiped out. You might think that that's kind of harsh and maybe a bit unsustainable, but it worked for me. As soon as I got a couple of weeks under my belt of reading consistently 3 chapters, and I had 2 or 3 weeks in a row, then something competitive inside me kicked in, and I didn't want to ever lose that score, and I kept going. Now, it was a little late in the year for me to then achieve that goal of reading 10 books, so I didn't quite manage that. I got 7, but I did keep the method going. And now, well... I'm recording this in October 2022, and so far, as of today, I've read 12 books in 2022. I'm probably on track to read about 16, 17 by the end of the year, just based on how things are going. And I've slowly increased how many chapters I read each week. I've gone from 3, I went to 4, 5. I'm currently reading 6 chapters a week of a fiction book. And sticking to that structure has helped me enormously. I think I'm on something crazy like 62 weeks in a row now, or something like that, of actually sticking with the reading. I'm doing it consistently, I'm not dropping weeks, and I'm finding it fun. I'm back into reading again, and I'm reading more than I ever have done before. Maybe even more than I did when I was a child. But it doesn't actually end there. The biggest thing from this is that I've started to apply the same technique to other areas of my life. I've downloaded an app called Streaks. It's not sponsored, but if the developers just happen to be watching this, then I absolutely love what they do. It does the same thing that I wanted. It counts up as you achieve the little small goals that you set for yourself each day or each week. And if you don't achieve that, at the end of the week, it'll wipe the score away for you. It implements that harsh measure for you. But it is nice enough to send you a reminder before it's going to do that. It gives you a chance to continue. If you've forgotten to read one day, then it'll sort of give you a nudge. You'll be like, hey, do you want to read? So having that reminder is really helpful. But now that I've got that app, I've set up more activities for me to try and have a go at and stick with. It started with reading non-fiction as well, alongside fiction. And it's progressed from there. Drinking more water, doing a little bit on the YouTube channel every day, playing my backlog of video games instead of buying a new game every single month. And I'm starting to stick to all of these things that I've been trying to put in place, and I'm enjoying each one. Well, almost all of them. Running, I'm still not enjoying really. I'll get there. I'm not doing running to enjoy it. I'm doing running for, health reasons. So I'm determined to stick with it, but it doesn't mean that everything you're going to instantly enjoy it right away. You have to work at it. My mindset has changed too. I don't want to be somebody who's read, 100 books, or somebody who reads, 25 books a year. That's not really what I want to be. I just want to be somebody who regularly reads. The goal has changed from the destination, read 25 books, to the journey, which is become a regular reader. And I think that that's worked out for the better. I've consistently read all year, and I can quite confidently say that I am now a regular reader. I've achieved that goal, and I'm hoping that using the same technique I can apply it to other areas and expand my horizons, exponentially really. So, next time you're setting a resolution or you're thinking about a new hobby and you're worried that you won't stick with it, and so you think, maybe I won't even try, why don't you have a go using this technique? Set yourself a small weekly goal, something very manageable at first. And then once you're achieving that goal, you can start to expand it and grow it from there once you stick with it. These small increases over time add up to a huge change. And doing it this way, it's something that I think you're much more likely to stick with. Honestly, if it worked for me, then I'm sure it can work for you too. Thanks for watching. If you thought this was useful, please do like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. I will see you next time.